Ah, Spore. For me, growing up, this sandbox game's open-endedness made it the perfect vessel for unleashing my creativity. Now, this basically just meant I used it as a platform to make a bunch of things I liked, using IP that I was fixated on, for example, Transformers and Pikmin, but it also made it a great place to experience other people's fan-made works and to make a bunch of my own creations. While yes, I could make existing Pikmin types and enemies in the game, I also decided to try my hand at making some of my own originals. The game was designed to make you feel basically like a creative genius, and I'll be honest, that made it rather addicting. In the game, you can build your own creatures and basically do whatever you want with them, especially in the Galactic Adventures expansion. As a kid, I took that and turned it into a tool to experience more Pikmin content, which was really good given the 10-year drought between Pikmin 2 and Pikmin 3 that I spent mostly playing this game. I made hundreds upon hundreds of Pikmin creatures in Spore growing up, though unfortunately I have lost access to the hard drives where many of them were saved over the years. If you want to check out what has survived, you can see the Spore video playlist that I'm linking in the iCard now. I will warn you though, it's not for the faint of heart. Some of the creatures I made before were a little, unsettling despite my childhood self's best efforts. Now, I am old, and unfortunately sometimes, despite my current best efforts, I feel like all creativity has left my body. I figured the best way to solve that is to get back to my roots. So today, I'm going to be creating some original Bulborbs in Spore. More specifically, I'm going to be making original Bulborbs in Spore using my template from my childhood Spore Bulborb Contest, a contest that nobody has ever entered. I'm going to roll a clip now from a prior video. Look at this. This is the Bulborb Contest. So what is this? Well, this is exactly what it sounds like. A contest young me was hosting for people making Bulborbs. What were the prizes? I don't know, because nobody entered. There were no entries. Nobody made a Bulborb. I wonder why. Well, let's take a look at the rules, shall we? Rules. Don't change the mouth and teeth. Spikes on side of mouth. Don't steal. Don't change coat and detail pattern. You can change the color. No Bulborb. That's a great way to spell Bulbman. Consistent with the way I spell Bulborb. I like these rules. I think we can add something else to them too, you know. If you can't change anything, I think we can add this next rule and be in the spirit of it. So let's, no fun allowed, lol. Get wrecked, kid. So basically, I made really arbitrary rules, and I'm going to be sort of following those rules and sort of doing my own thing. I'm doing my childhood self a solid. But either way, I'm taking this template, as weird and messed up as it is, and I'm going to make a bunch of cool Bulborbs. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to make a few cool Bulborbs and also make some deeply cursed ones because, honestly, it's in the spirit of my childhood self to make some really messed up looking Spore creatures, and frankly, I like when people laugh at me, and also I like when my videos get views, so we're going to make a few really interesting, cool Bulborb ideas that I would like to see in the game, but as you know, it's all mostly going to be nightmare fuel. So, without further ado, my name is Vantage Emblem. Let's get right into this. Oh, and one last thing before we start, I'm doing a part 2 to this where I make custom Pikmin ideas. I teased this in the last Spore video, I think, probably. But yeah, it's happening. It's all recorded. Subscribe so you can see it. Alright, this is the Deep Bulborb. It's kinda like the clickers from The Last of Us mixed with the Minecraft Warden. I really love the idea of a Bulborb that can't see you and has no eyes but can hear in the darkest places. Specifically, I felt like the caves in Pikmin 4 were just not scary enough. And I also love the light mechanics of Pikmin 3 and also Pikmin 4. Like, I love the fire starters, I love the light bulbs, and I think that this would be a fun enemy that could be fought using some of these light mechanics. Basically, this creature is totally blind and has these sensor stalks on its eyes, well, at least where its bulbous orbs would be, right? So, in this case, the light mechanics benefit you because the area it's going to be is really dark, so you can see, but it's not actually stopping them at all. Maybe they hear the crackle of the light bulb lighting up or the fire starting, and they go in that direction, but mostly, you have to take control of the sound of your environment to distract them and move them around. I mean, I've always loved the creepier side of Pikmin enemies, and that was a big thing I kept in mind here. Still, maybe he's a bit too creepy. I mean, seriously, imagine like a younger Pikmin player going a little far down a cave and seeing this. It might be too much, but I think I'm onto something here. I mean, if Minecraft can have the Warden, maybe a little bit of a toned back or reiterated version of this could be really good. I just love the idea of enemies that are manipulated using sound, and maybe a new Pikmin type could be a sound Pikmin that could interact with Bulborbs in this way, or other enemies in this way. I think a Dumple that's like this too would be awesome. I love the water Dumples. They're grub dogs anyway. I don't know. I really like this. I mean, even if he's still too creepy, he's probably one of my favorites in this whole video. So we're starting out strong. Speaking of things that may be too creepy, this next enemy might be a little too much. Introducing the Crypt Bulborb. So these are juveniles, and they're okay. They don't really look like any Bulborb we've seen so far, like at all in the series, and that was intentional. I was trying to push the form of a Bulborb. Now, that probably means this thing would be disqualified from the competition, but just hang with me here. So these juveniles are dark little blobby Bulborbs that spawn and hunt with spider eyes and creepy long legs, inspired by Bulborb larvae. They're a distant relative on the Bulborb family tree, but they're still Bulborbs, and that was the idea. So instead of having like downward-facing fangs, they have forward-facing fangs, and they look really different from regular Bulborbs. Like, I'm not even sure that Olimar would call this a Bulborb, even though they are related. But I'm sure they'll grow up to look more like a classic Bulborb, and that would, of course, justify the name. So let's take a look at the adults. What in PNF 404 is this? Yeah, maybe this is some other form of grub dog at best, but yeah, this thing is awful. I was inspired by the idea of a spider mixed with a Bulborb, but this is just too much all around, I think. Like, definitely the quality of my creepy childhood stuff. I definitely, if I were to have this thing in the games, you know, it would have some attack to make Pikmin panic and would spawn juveniles off its back, like spider eggs. But like, yeah, this is a no from me. I don't like this. I had an idea in my head when I was trying to make this, but my Spore skills did not execute, and it's just kind of nightmare fuel. I'm sure Louie would still eat it, though. But we're not done with the Crypt Bulborb family. When I was editing this, I realized that I had totally skipped in the script the boss variant of the Crypt Bulborb, which honestly I feel the best about of all of the Crypt Bulborbs, the Crypt Bulborb Patriarch. This is supposed to be a big, terrifying, dark boss that appears out of the ground, and its back, which is reading as treasure or whatever the collectible for the game is, Sparklium, you name it, it's setting off the treasure gauge, but it's also just a bunch of eggs for the smaller Crypt Bulborbs that it carries around and nurtures as the parental Bulborb. I really like this guy, actually, and seeing him, I realize all my ideas do kind of come into place a little bit, and I like the whole Crypt Bulborb family better. Maybe still too scary for a Pikmin game, but again, it's another attempt at making a deep, dark Bulborb, and honestly, I don't hate it nearly as much as I did before. Oh, speaking of things I tried my hand at and failed, I tried to make the Emperor's Bulblex in Spore, and needless to say, it did not go well. Yeah, so here's the... The body shape is all wrong, and it just looks like an abomination. Like, please, just douse it in fire, get it out of here. Okay, so after those monstrosities, I decided to return to a more traditional Bulborb body shape, especially because the prior design probably would have been disqualified from my contest anyway, and we need not talk about that Emperor's Bulblex. So I did still decide to experiment with different body plans, and I love the idea of the Crush Plat. So I wondered, what would a really tall Bulborb look like? Introducing the Tall Bulborb. This guy is insane. Not even yellows can get to him when he's high up, and you need to either charge him with wings, have Pikmin climb up his legs, or wait till he brings his head down to slam him with yellows or other types. I think he could be a lot of fun, though I really don't know how he would physically work, and his animations would be wonky. Like, how would he eat Pikmin? Would he have to lean down to gobble them up? Like, I just don't know, and frankly, I'm not sure I want to ask questions. So, you know, at the end of the day, I think his body shape is still too extreme, and I wanted to go back to the roots of the challenge, just using a basic Bulborb form. Now, bear with me through the next one. It turns into something interesting, but iteration is really good for progress, and it kind of starts looking terrible at first. So, I had an idea for an armored Bulborb. When working on Pikmin Unearthed, a project that you can see in the iCard, working on restoring a lost Pikmin area, we came across new enemies that were never finished for Pikmin 3. Specifically, these armored sheargrubs that could latch onto the back of a Bulborb and make them tougher, right? And the thing is, these ideas never seemed finished then. They may have become the Share Fleas in Pikmin 4, but we just don't know. And I thought, what if we had a more traditional Bulborb that had kind of armored body parts? So let's look at my first design for this, which just really doesn't work. This is the plated Bulborb, and before you say anything, yeah, I know what you're thinking. I don't know what I was thinking with this. I wanted him to have cool armored plated spots, but it looks like he's just a walking poop emoji. The brown color here did not help, nor did the leaf camouflage, and he just overall looks like a poop Bulborb, which is not something I'd like to make. So he's really a victim of my Spore skill, but I really love the concept of having an armored Bulborb, so I decided to retry the concept. Introducing the Crested Bulborb. So this was inspired by bugs like scarabs and also samurai armor, and is just such a better take on the idea. Sorry, plated Bulborb. I love the idea of this guy being tough to take down since you have to pull his armor off piece by piece, and him being more of an elite warrior hunter Bulborb, kind of like a lot of large insects. Like, he's just really tough with keratin on his body. Maybe you have to shatter his armor with tough Pikmin types like rock Pikmin. Maybe you can freeze him with ice Pikmin to get an advantage to pull pieces off. Like, there's so many interesting things you could do. Maybe winged Pikmin could lift him up by the crest, and then you have to fight him with different Pikmin types. I love the idea of a Bulborb that interacts with different types differently, and this guy, he's just so cool. So it went from maybe the worst design of the bunch, because frankly, the Crypt Bulborb may be terrifying, but the plated Bulborb just looked dumb, to the Crested Bulborb, which is honestly one of my favorites I've ever made. Like, he looks so cool, and I feel like he could fit in a Pikmin cave really well. Maybe he could even be a boss, but I like the idea of him just being a general Bulborb, right? Not a Crested Bulblax, but just a Crested Bulborb. Maybe there could be a Crested Bulblax that's a bigger, more intense variant that's a relative, but I don't know. Bulborb naming conventions are weird anyway, and it is what it is. But overall, I like this guy. So we're going to get to the final Bulborb of this list. This is the reverse Bulborb. The idea here is that it had eyes on the front and back of its head, so it was hard to flank. It kind of would be practically just the orange Bulborb, and its legs are backwards too, so it could move forward and backwards. Idea? Kind of interesting. In reality, it just looks painful for it to live. Definitely, again, not my best work. It's a little scary. I don't like it. It's just unsettling, right? So, you know, clearly things today have been on a spectrum in regards to their quality. Some have been very good, and some, like the reverse Bulborb and the plated Bulborb, not so much. And I want to see how all these Bulborbs look together in action before I decide if anything could win my Bulborb contest. So, I decided to put them all into my childhood Add a Bulborb challenge. Because, you know, that was supposed to be where people put the Bulborbs from my Bulborb contest, when they entered, into a single Spore world where you could see all of these Bulborbs together. Problem: nobody participated. So, I'm going to be kind to my younger self, and I'm going to put all of these Bulborbs in with some of my prior Bulborbs from the earlier video, and we'll see what happens. Oh my goodness, this is awful! I can't tell if these were meant to be disturbing, creepy, funny, or just sad, but I think the well of ideas was running out if I wasn't intending for this to be one of those things, because, gosh, this is just terrible. This garish, unedited planet doesn't help the chaos here either. That being said, I do think there are some good ideas in the new Bulborbs we've made today, right? Specifically, I love the Crested Bulborb, I love the Tall Bulborb, and I really, really love the Deep Bulborb. All three of those I think are excellent. And I think, in all honesty, Pikmin probably has a bunch of bad idea Bulborbs that were suggested by developers at some point that didn't make it to the final game, right? Like, design is an iterative thing, and sometimes you have to try multiple different iterations of an enemy before the right one shows itself, especially on a game as big and as ambitious as the Pikmin titles. So, with that all being said, what do you think? Which Bulborb, if any, has your vote to win my contest? Do you think any of these are a good idea at all? What would you think these things would do if they were in Pikmin? I'd love to see art of any of these creatures, the cool ones and the, odd ones. Reverse Bulborb and plated Bulborb specifically, I'm looking at you. And I'd love to see creepy art of the Crypt Bulborb if anyone would like to take that task on. I'm really not asking for anything, I just want to see these rendered in something better than my mediocre Spore skills. That being said, speaking of mediocre Spore skills, the very next video is going to be me making custom Pikmin types, so please subscribe. I promise they're a little better than these Bulborbs are. I'm actually really excited about that video. But anyway, you know the drill. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. My name is Vantage Emblem. Thank you for bearing through this Bulborb mania with me, and I'm really excited for the custom Pikmin types next time. Take care, everyone, and I hope to see you soon. Bye!